Hello. I've got some wonderful questions from you guys. And the first one is an interesting one. It goes back to early MythBusters episode, underwater car myth. And this is the myth that when a car goes underwater and fills with water, one can become disoriented and not know where they are in the car. Ultimately, we found that is exactly the case, that going underwater in a car is very spooky and dangerous, and also a high point for me. I had a lot of fun with that story. But the question that Chase Davis 1350 wants to know is, they say, in the blueprint room, you claim that you want to be the one in the car, and you express that you've always wanted to be the guy in the car. Did you really want to do that, or was that something that you were told to say? For the most part, we were never told to say anything specific. For the most part. Actually, we had control over what we said. There was nobody writing our dialogue or our monologues. Those were figured out on the fly between us and each other and our producers, whether it was Steve-O or Alice or Jax or Y or anybody else. And it's true. I always did want to be the guy in the car. And I recognize that being in a car that's going underwater is like a lot of people's hugest fear. I didn't know that until we aired that episode. The other hugest fear that people have is public speaking. And since I love both of those things, I guess I'm very much an outlier for the stress-inducing stuff. I have told the story of the underwater car episode and my survival of difficult circumstances many times. I'm not going to tell it here. But suffice to say that even despite all my experience and some difficulty we had in filming the episode, I love being an action hero under controlled circumstances. Like, I really dig that. I also appreciate the things my body can remember when it's important. That was something I learned on the show. Like, we were doing Waterslide Wipeout. And in Waterslide Wipeout, on my second jump, just for the uninitiated, Waterslide Wipeout was a viral video from the mid-aughts of a guy sliding down a 200-foot slide on a ramp and then flying like 75 feet through the air into a kiddie pool. And we figured out a way to do this safely by putting our target in a lake so that missing the target wouldn't equal death. And when we were doing it, we built a ramp, we built a slide, and we built a ramp. And in order to get the insurance company to feel safe, we said we'd start from halfway, then we'd go to 3/4 of the way, and then we'd go to the top. We'd creep up on the danger just to make sure we felt safe at each stage. And so I went halfway, and I just fell right off the end. I went 3/4 of the way, and I was all over the place. When I finally went to but I was safe. And then when I went to the top, it was fine. But the 3/4 of the way has some footage in it. And if we snip this out and make it a separate video, I have footage of this, where you can see me coming off the ramp and my legs and arms are all over the place. But halfway through flying through the air, you can see me put my arms at my sides and get my ankles together. Because if I'm going to have anything approaching a successful landing, it's only going to be because my hands are at my sides and my feet are together and my ankles are together. And I don't remember thinking that clearly when it was happening, but in the slow-mo video, you can really see my brain kind of like, oh, well, get those arms to the side, get those ankles together. And I really appreciate that. So yeah, your question implies, I think, a lot of what you hear about reality television, which is, and it's true, that reality television is about as far from reality as you can get, that a lot of these dramatic shows about groups of people often have table reads, and like everything they do is totally scripted and carefully managed, which is, I have issues with that, but television's television. If people enjoy watching it, that's totally fine. We were not that kind of show. We had outlines of what we wanted to cover that day, but really the pieces to camera we did were of just a few categories. There was the what's about to happen and what do you think will be the result? What is happening and how do you think it's going to turn out? What just happened and what do you think about it and what is going to happen next? Literally, it was like those categories writ large on every single episode that we did. But truthfully, we were just following our noses. So I think it's a unique thing for a television show. At one point, James Cameron, one of James Cameron's lead 3D producers, came and spent a couple of days with us. I think I even told this story less than a month ago. But he spent a couple of days embedded with us, and then he turned to Dan Tapster, our co-executive producer, and he said, "Let me get this straight. The shooting takes precedent. Sorry, the experiment takes precedence over the shooting?" And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't think that would be possible." I'm very proud of that. And it's hard to make television like that these days. The budgets are too small. The desires from the networks are too large. I feel like I've enjoyed two career end of the lines. And the first one was getting a desk in the model shop in Industrial Light and Magic just before they shut the model shop down for good. Felt like I pulled my hat as the door was closing. And the second was getting a reality television show at a time when you could shoot. 2002, we shot the pilots with 6 people. No one would do that anymore. That's for YouTube, not for television these days. We're getting some questions live right away. Martin Hooker asks, when meeting fans, have you ever found it hard to deal with the fact that they may be over familiar with you? Rarely. But there are 2 kinds of people that can be weirdly overfamiliar. One kind are the people that think it's fun to like needle you right upon meeting you. Like they get passive aggressive and they think that's funny, but that's just, it's not problematic behavior, but it's just like, it puts you on your back feet. That is very rare. That is surpassingly rare. It has happened. The other one is when they name my kids. That one, frankly, has definitely squicked me just a tad. Because I really don't mention my kids' names on any of my media, on any of my stuff. And this might be one of the very few times I've actually said that out loud. Mostly my fans have understood. I was at Comic-Con a few years ago with Dan Harmon, and Dan took a picture of me and my boys, and he posted it. And our fans very gently said to Dan, you know, Adam has never posted a picture of his boys. And so Dan pulled it, and he's like, everyone was so nice about it. So yeah, when people have gone through the trouble to figure out my kids' names and then say them to me, it's just a tiny little, it's not like I'm going to think ill of them. It's not even like I'll remember that interaction because I can't remember the last person to do it, but I definitely remember the feeling. And look, it's not like I sit there and be like, I am blaming that person for that poor behavior. Meeting people that you are familiar with, that you admire, is weird. I have had it countless times. I have said weird things to people that I admired and gone home and thought about how weird what I said was, and I hope they're not thinking about what a dummy I am. I mean, I've gone through all of that stuff. So I recognize it can be heightened from an emotional and temporal standpoint, and, you know, all forgiveness. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.